I'm Vishwa Majithia and this is my informative speech. You saw 4 people sitting and there's someone recording right now. She's gonna shake the phone a bit so that you know that she's there. Okay, um, I want you all to close your eyes and paint a picture of a time when you're sitting in a restaurant with a friend. You take the first bite of your food. At this point, a million thoughts race in your head. Do I like the taste of it? Do I like its texture? Why is this cuisine so different than what I'm used to? I've had these thoughts more often than not. I'm from India and I'm glad that my dad has exposed me to a lot of different cuisines. And he's passed on his love for food to me. Ever since I got to the US, I've noticed that not a lot of people know how much the Indian cuisine has to offer. Today, I'm going to inform you about the history, variety, and why Indian food is absolutely delicious. First, I'm going to give you some insight into the history of the Indian food. According to Gian and Lewis, in a blog about the history of Indian cuisine is about as difficult to explain as thermodynamics. Don't worry, I'm going to try my best to explain. India is a land of variety. Every region has its own ingredients and its own style of cooking. It's actually pointless to have a term Indian cuisine just because it's so different. Firstly, the variety of food depends not only on the availability of local produce and spices, but also on religion. There are 2 predominant religions in India, Hindu and Muslim. Hindu focuses on vegetarian cuisine, whereas Muslims, they usually use a lot of meat. Secondly, as far as geography goes, South India uses a lot of coconut in their food. Given its weather and land conditions, rice is their staple as well. Furthermore, North India focuses on the use of more milk products and wheat. In fact, North India is known as the wheat bowl of our country. Thirdly, Indian recipes for a particular dish may vary from house to house, generation to generation. My mom has taught me how to cook a lot of Indian dishes, but never once has she told me how much of each spice goes into the dish. I just put the spices with touch and feel. Here is my recipe book, and as you see, I've got Indian dishes on both of these pages. There aren't any ingredients listed or the amount of each spice that goes into it. It's just the procedure. Lastly, as you all probably know, the British ruled India for over 500 years. They've contributed to the Indian culinary scene as well. Actually, they introduced tea in India. Moving on to why it's so delicious. According to Roberto A. Ferdman, in his blog, Scientists Have Figured Out What Makes Indian Food So Delicious, concludes that Indian food does something radical, something extremely different from that as seen in the US and other Western cultures. It does something at the molecular level. According to his blog, chefs in the US or on the Western side, they use ingredients in their dishes which have overlapping flavors. This simply is not the case with Indian cuisine. Indian cuisine combines ingredients that have very little overlapping flavors. This in turn creates an entirely unique flavor. This graph from the article in Scientific American helps understand the concept better. A food's vertical position on the page reveals the total number of foods that connect to it. Foods at the top of the page share flavor compounds with many other foods. On the other hand, those at the bottom are completely unique. Furthermore, the use of abundant spices helps with the richness and uniqueness of Indian dishes. According to an interview by Laurie Corbin about Indian spices, they not only bring flavor to the dish, but they are quite healthy. Turmeric, cumin, fennel, ginger, all of these have cancer-fighting and anti-inflammatory properties. The more spices means less sodium and thus more healthy the food. In conclusion, today I have informed you about the history of Indian cuisine and more specifically why it's really delicious. Thank you for your time.